What does a hammer have to do with prayer? No, it's not to hit the devil over the head with it. Actually, it's got a lot to do with it. If you have a hammer, you have it for a specific purpose. It's like if you have a screwdriver, you got it for a specific purpose. And all these other tools, wrench and all these other things, are for a specific purpose and they're for a specific use. If you're going to drive a nail in, you're not going to use a screwdriver. Just like if you're going to pray to consecrate or dedicate yourself, you're not going to pray with, prayer of faith. Each tool has its own purpose. A screwdriver, you're going to use it to, screw screws in. You might use this to turn stuff. I mean, there's other uses for screwdrivers, But for prayer, when it comes to prayer, there's different types of prayers. There's the prayer of faith, the prayer of consecration and dedication, the prayer of commitment. There's the prayer of a unified prayer. There's the prayer of praise and worship. There's the prayer of binding and loosing. But in each and every one of these prayers, there's a specific way that you have to pray. Just like when you have tools, you're not going to use this to drive in a nail unless you ain't got this. Just like when it comes to prayer, you're not going to use the prayer of faith to pray for something that you can't have faith for. If you pray the prayer of faith, you actually have to know the will of God to pray it. If you're going to pray the prayer of commitment, that's when you're going to use the words, if it be thy will, because you don't necessarily know God's will. But you can't use the phrase, if it be thy will, when you're praying the prayer of faith, because if it be thy will means you don't know the will of God. And that means you can't have faith. Some tools work together, like a hammer and a screwdriver. You can actually beat it in to do some certain things. And tools, you don't necessarily do this because it's not their purpose, but you can do it. However, when it comes to prayers, there are some prayers that do work together, like the prayer of faith and the prayer of praise and worship. Even though we call it just praise and worship, it's actually a prayer. Just look at the story of Timothy and Paul. They were stuck in prison, and what did they do? They prayed, they had faith, but then they praised God. And it's when they praised God that the prison doors opened. Sometimes these prayers work hand in hand, and most of the time, it's the prayer of praise and worship that's working hand in hand with the other prayers. Just think about it. You bind and loose something, or you pray for this, or you pray to consecrate yourself to God, or whatever it may be, unified prayer. But when you get done, you praise and worship God. And praise and worship's actually where the big power is, because, you look in the Bible, and that's where a lot of stuff happens, not just in the praying, but in the praise and worship. So if you're going to use a hammer, you got to know what you're going to use it for. If you're going to pray a specific prayer, you got to know the rules and the purposes behind those prayers, because if not, well, you're just praying in vain. And a lot of people do that, but they're not getting results. But if you use the actual prayers and the plans and the purposes, how they're supposed to be prayed, you're going to get results and you're going to get answered to prayer.